Good afternoon. My name is
Hi,
Amanda Team,
Tom Leahy.
and we are OptimumEd, where we are college consultants, and we are all about the right college at the right cost and finding the right career. Right?
Correct.
Yes.
That's exactly what we do.
So we are going to dive right in today to talk about the assessment process and the analysis that we do, because it's such an integral part of what we do here at OptimumEd. Because without the assessment and the analysis that goes with that, that's part of what we do to
You're
help.
flying blind.
Yeah.
So everything we do starts with the assessment.
Exactly.
Our
It's
students
such a
take
huge
it.
part. It's
Yeah.
the foundation of what we do. It
Yeah.
starts the whole process, and it helps find the right career.
Right.
So it's also a great opportunity for parents with middle school and high school students
Yes.
to find out more about their student and what the direction that they should go, and also adults that are thinking about going back to college. But let's talk about the middle school students
Right.
and high school students
Okay.
first.
All right. So when we look at the middle school population, especially eighth graders, in a lot of public school systems today, there are so many options when it comes to high school. Different tracks, whether you call it a magnet, school, or you call it specialty centers, or here we all in Virginia, we have the governor's schools, and there's this IB program that most schools offer, and even career technical education. Those choices going into high school, if you're in the public school system, those choices are being made coming out of eighth grade.
Which it's fantastic to have all of those choices, but it's so important to be able to make the right choice.
Correct.
And the more information that you have, the better choices that you're going to make.
And those choices can affect the rest of your academic life as a student. And so we're asking an eighth grader. I'm not going to debate whether it's right or wrong. Do we put an eighth grader in that kind of position, at their age to make those decisions, or even a family with a young child. So, but that's where we are in the education system. And so, what tools are available for a family to help make those decisions? It's really kind of an arbitrary decision, based upon what they know about their child, about how they're doing in school. Johnny's good at math, so let's have him apply to the math center. Well, that may be, the worst decision for Johnny based upon other things that come to play, right? So our assessment can really help frame that decision for that family, for that student going into high school.
Right. So I have a student in 7th grade. And so next year, I can't wait for my daughter to take the assessment, because she'll be in 8th grade. And, I'm going to use that to really assess her strengths and what to focus on, and, to kind of guide her and direct her in a good for some good choices in high school.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does, and that's exactly what should be happening. And just throw this out there, that the experts tell us, who put this tremendous assessment together, is if you take it in 8th grade, you take it again when you're 50 years old, the array of jobs that are delivered based upon this assessment are not going to change. And they say, well, how is that possible? Well, that's some of the details that we can share with you when you come in to take the assessment. But trust me, it is that effective in terms of the results. So you don't have to retake it again every 2 years. As an 8th grader,
well,
you're pretty much set.
For me, what's going to be interesting is, to have her take this assessment and see what her personality is, and get some scientific data and help me understand her a little bit more. And I think
really
that's always a good
you really
thing.
know your
Do I really know? I think I know her. I think she's a lot like me. So we'll see what, it'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
But that's going to help me help make a lot of choices for her. So you've got that, and then you've got, as you move through the high school,
right,
you try to maneuver that, and you're focusing on the right college and the career.
Right.
So
it's so important that because today the average student changes majors like 3 times, right? The average student graduates with like an extra 38 credit hours because they don't know what direction they go, and they wait until they're in college to figure it out. And so all that extra time, and those extra credit hours cost money. I mean, we look at maybe, I mean, we do the math, it's about $12,000 extra that we're spending just to figure out what we should be doing or what direction feels right.
And that is a lot. And one other statistic that really blew me away was 19% of students graduate in 4 years.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we got 30% of our first-time college students dropping out. And reality is that only about 53% ever get a degree in 6 years. You know, so there's a lot of people out there that started college and didn't finish the process, started college, took loans, didn't finish the process, and are now trying to service those loans with a job that does, you know, that's a non-degree type of work.
So you wonder if they would have started with an assessment, chosen a really good career path, it would have been a good fit for them. It would have been a better experience in college, taking those college classes that they were more interested in, more passionate about, and maybe they would have stayed in school. Maybe and think of the impact on that student in terms of their self-esteem, self-confidence, being faced with walking away from something because the planning wasn't done well up front. You know, I mean, that in itself has a devastating effect on someone, you know, and a lot of people can't handle that, you know, and so we end up anxiety, whatever, and you know, all of that could be precluded by doing better planning ahead of that eventuality of college. Well, and I think when students go to college, it's a huge change. You're going to away from home, and you're going to a different place, different people. Everything is changing. Wouldn't it be great if you had the focus, the career, a path, and we could minimize the question marks.
Right. Exactly.
And make that student feel like they're going in the right direction and are in a school that's the right fit for them.
And we spend a lot of time there. I mean, we spend a lot of time, probably 5 hours or more, because if we do a good job there, then everything else is really planning backwards, right? I mean, we know what we want to and should be when we grow up, what education or training we need to attain that, what schools offer that, and then we marry that up with the needs and wants of the student and the campus, the financial wherewithal of the family. Hey, there's the schools that we need to look at in terms of applying, right? Seems pretty intuitive, but guess what? It doesn't happen, you know, for the most part, but that's our process. You know, and that's what we coach through, the student through.
Well, and I like the word coaching because it's really, it's consultative, it's coaching, it's working through all of the different challenges, it's eliminating things, it's figuring out what might not work so that you can focus on what does work in terms of the colleges you choose and some of the you know, possibilities that you're looking at, and it's a process.
It's a process, and the process is what increases the chances of success, is working the process, asking the questions, getting the answers, having that conversation.
Now, that is just such a fantastic process and opportunity, but let's not leave out adults too, because there are some adults.
And we college students, so I mean, we've had college students come here and take our assessment because they start feeling like maybe they're not going in the right direction, right? So they come in, they take the assessment, and they, you know, a lot of times it affirms that they're doing the right thing, but there is great value in affirmation, right?
Well, and if you are in college and you are in your major and you are thinking, well, maybe this isn't right for me, I don't know, let's, you know, find out before I get so far in to my major and to all these courses. Let's just make sure, is this really what I want to do? Because maybe it's not, but maybe it is.
Yeah.
But the more you know, the more you know. So
but yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. The more information we have, the better decisions we can make.
It's well worth the time and money to come in and get this information, and it could save
for the little it costs. It's a huge and a very powerful tool. For kids, it's a great foundation for everything that comes next. Even for adults going back to school or hitting college for the first time, let's do it right. You know, let's do it right, and
let's not waste time and money,
and make it successful and an enjoyable process for you. So It all starts with the assessment.
So I think the bottom line is the assessment and the analysis of that assessment that you have here at OptimumEd, it really fulfills our mission, and that is the right college, the right career, the right cost, and let's find the right fit on all of those fronts, right?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the assessment itself.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So the assessment is called Pathway Planner. It's not something you can find online. Okay, it's not a website or anything else. It is something that we contract with a very large international company for, and it is exclusive to our organization here in this area. So it is it takes about an hour or so to take. So it is very involved. It's very robust in terms of its the guts of the assessment and what it asks and the things is exploring with the student through the process. So what is it looking at? Well, three things. First is it's looking at thinking style, okay, and verbal and mathematical information, your skill in math and in language, but also your reasoning ability, okay, and those things come together to identify what your thinking style is. And what they're measuring is really how you process information, how you learn. It's about integrating into the workplace, right? So you'll see, the results will describe your ability to handle new mathematical or verbal information based upon the job that you're faced with and that sort of thing. So it's all about, being in the workplace. Thinking style. Then we look at 9 behavioral traits that make up your personality, right? So 9 behavioral traits. For example, are you a social person, right? Are you a person that has to be around people all the time? You get your energy from others, that sort of thing. You go crazy if you're isolated and by yourself. So, someone who is accounting and crunching numbers all day long, if they can't survive if they're a social animal, right? On the other end of the spectrum is the individual who is not social. They don't want to be around people. They want to do their work by themselves. They'd rather be in a lab coat talking to the rats, right? Excuse me. So social, another example of a behavioral trait that's very interesting is, manageability, right? So do you follow the rules? You accept supervision, right? If you're on the high end, you do what you're told when you're told how you're told, right? Lockstep. If you're on the low end, you're a rebel, right?
And that's all about how you like to be managed.
Right, exactly.
And
yeah. So don't, high pressure leadership won't work for the low end of that spectrum. And you're being measured against the population as a whole, right? So the results are seeing how you are in terms of the population. So, if you're a very unique person, it's going to contract the number of jobs that show up for your profile. So there's a couple examples of behavioral traits. There's 9 of them, and then the last thing that's looked at are your interests, and it describes your 3 interests out of 6 interest categories that they say that everything we can be interested in go in one of these 6 buckets. So, for example, there's enterprising, which is like business interests and sales. You've got creative piece, which is not really being an artist per se, but you are an innovative thinker, okay, and that sort of thing. So they identify your top 3 interests out of 6 interest categories in priority. So those things come together to create your profile, and then the assessment delivers a list of jobs that are appropriate for that profile based on what people with a similar profile are actually doing.
Right. So basically it says, okay, here's you and your profile, and people that have this similar profile have been very successful doing these jobs. And it gets very specific with the jobs, which I like the specificity of the jobs,
right?
Because I think it gives you a clear picture. It's not just career areas, it's specific jobs that you can really hone in on.
Right. And it's easy for us to talk about specific jobs. And so, and then the real value of the process is not only, going through the assessment results, understanding our thinking style, our behaviors, our interests, and how that creates this profile and delivers this group of jobs that are appropriate, but we can then take and connect from those jobs to a huge database called the ONET, which gives all sorts of information about those jobs, day in the life of, what tasks you perform on a daily basis. What are you doing most of your day?
What education do you need to perform those jobs?
What software? Yeah, what
are the
software
trends of those jobs? The ONET is fascinating to me because it actually gives trends state specific. So if you're someone that wants to go and live in another state, then you can use the ONET to figure out, okay, what is the trend for this specific job in this state? How many openings were there last year? What is the potential for these specific jobs? And
job openings on an annual basis. Is it growing or declining, over the next 15 years? What are the salary projections, for this job? So, for example, you want to be a museum curator in Virginia. Okay, that's great, but there's maybe 4 openings a year. Maybe we need to take your passion in sort of a different direction and find
open up to
something else.
More geography.
Right. Or open up, so understand that you're going to have to leave Virginia to be successful, whatever. But this is the kind of information that we can put in front of the family and student to make better decisions, right? So that's the process. That's how it works. And again, we spend a lot of time there because what we want to do is at the end of the process, coming out of the assessment process, even though we're talking about specific jobs within the process itself, the end result is to provide us an academic direction.
Right.
Okay.
A sustainable career.
Right. Based on a sustainable career, what is the appropriate academic direction for the student? So yes, you should be pursuing something in engineering. You should be pursuing something in business. Larger academic buckets. So we can then use that information to filter our colleges and universities, right? As I said before, and then we marry it up with the needs and wants of the student and the campus and the financial wherewithal of the family to tell us where we ought to be looking in terms of those schools that we want to eventually apply to.
I like it because it can be very specific. You can think that you want to go get a business degree or a marketing degree, and that's fantastic if you have that drive and that degree that you want to pursue. But let's get a little more specific. Let's talk about more specific jobs within marketing, within business, within finance.
And and if there's a job, if you think you want to be a certain type of person, you want to have a certain kind of job, and it doesn't show up on this list, I can show you why. Okay, we can show you.
Point.
Yeah,
right.
we can lay the student's profile on top of the job coding and show you why. You want to be a pharmacist? Well, I'm sorry, you're a very creative person, and there's really no room in pharmaceuticals for creativity, right? At least I hope not. You're just counting pills all day, right? I mean, not to take anything away from our pharmacists, but that's what I'm saying. But personalities have a lot to do with the appropriateness of the job and the individual being happy in what they're doing.
Right. So I met a college student the other day who was a finance major. Not sure if they wanted to be a finance major because they just couldn't imagine being in an office all day. And so, my response was, well, you should really think about that and go and talk to people that are in the area that you are trying to be in and figure out, because the job is going to be in the building like that all day. And so
what a great idea. Shadowing. Right.
And that's something we offer too.
Exactly. So we do a pretty good job of putting our students in front of people who are doing the work they think want to do, right? So you want to be a dermatologist? We'll find a dermatologist for you to shadow, and after a day with them, cutting things off of people's bodies, and we'll come back to the table and say,
you really want to do that?
You really want to be a dermatologist? It's more than just acne cream, right? So that kind of reality check.
Real world
reality check.
Scenarios.
Making better decisions about the direction you're going. It creates much more efficiency in the whole higher education process. and it starts with the assessment.
And
And every student should take it.
we are all about more information, the better,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
So the assessment. And the great thing is we are offering the assessment at a 20% discount.
We are.
So that's super exciting.
Between now and the end of September for celebrating kind of back to school. We want students taking this assessment, making sure that they're going in the right direction and helping them out with their future. 20% discount. Give us a call or go to our website and contact us, OptimumEdCenter.com.
It's a really good deal, 20% off of this assessment and all of the consulting and the information that you get. It's a super, super value. I highly recommend it. Like I said, I can't wait for my daughter in 8th grade to take this because I need to know a little bit more about her. So
great.
it'll be interesting.
All right. So we
Thank
look
you
forward
so
to hearing from
much.
you. Thank you.
Have
Take
a good
care.
weekend. Bye.
Bye.